Yeah, that's great. Can I just check you can hear me and you can see the slides?
Loud and clear, I can see
So
your
yeah,
slides.
it
Yeah.
should hurt your eyes if you can see it. That's one of the main things. So wake up, everyone. It's Monday, and yeah, my name's Rupert. If you haven't met me already, I work in the SED office, but I also have lots of side hustles, and I am an entrepreneur. So I was finding it really interesting hearing all that stuff from these guys, and I think Queen Mary is particularly supportive on this stuff. So don't be afraid to reach out to them. And also in terms of money, like in terms of getting funding from Queen Mary, but also yeah, within the school and getting support for your ideas. I wasn't too sure on that on entrepreneurship thing, and I think I'll need to look up that a bit more because I've never worked for companies like that really. So yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think the world is changing towards a more entrepreneurial model. So hopefully, what I'm talking about today will be of interest. I was mainly going to do this presentation from Starbucks the last time I was going to do it, and then everything went wrong. So sorry about that if you were at my disaster trying to join. Don't trust Starbucks Wi-Fi is my tip. And what was the other one? Yeah, so I'm mainly talking about being a copywriter. So that's kind of like a freelance job that I've done for quite a few years. So yeah, I'll get going. And if you have any questions as you go along, I can't see the chat. I'm only on one screen today. So if you or someone could let me know, that'd be really helpful. And you're welcome to add me on LinkedIn, like my LinkedIn is at the bottom there. So bit.ly/Rupert LinkedIn. Easy enough to remember, hopefully. Cool. So I always start every presentation with this Alice Walker quote. So Alice Walker, if you don't know, is she's my favorite writer, and basically, yeah, the quote is about the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. And what that means is basically so many people don't try these things or don't do things or don't make projects or don't, actually have the ideas or have the guts to make them happen. And we give up and then we don't have any power. And my point of the presentation today is that you do have the power, you can make amazing things happen. And in a social entrepreneur way as well. And I can talk a little bit about that. I wouldn't call myself a total social entrepreneur. I'm a bit more smarmy than that. And as you'll see. So yeah, so these are people who've graduated from Queen Mary. Not all entrepreneurs actually, but there's quite a few people working in lots of cool businesses. So just to inspire you that there's lots of jobs and opportunities for you after Queen Mary. Don't get frustrated and think your English degree isn't worthwhile. So yeah, I'm going to talk about stories. Stories are really important. There's a book on the right of this slide called All Marketers Are Liars, and then it's crossed out and it says tell stories. So that's basically what I do as a marketer. I don't think of myself as this big evil kind of, I don't know, salesperson. I think of myself as telling stories that people want to hear and people are interested in or might raise the profile of something. So these are basically what I'm trying to say is writing fuels action. So these 5 points. So what you can use your writing for. So you can use it to sell a product, service. You can persuade people. Obviously, you're doing that in all your essays right now anyway. So persuading people and kind of getting them to come around to your ideas as well. Then there's also entertaining us, making us human. So if you've done like Hugh's module, Laughing Matters, you know why comedy is important. Making us care by listening to others. So that's the kind of charity angle. Like, why do we care about anything? Why do we, why do we engage with these charities? Why do we give our money to things? Why do we grow stupid moustaches in November? Because we've been told a story that is telling us that we'll be good people if we do these things, and obviously raise money in the process. Also interpreting data. So people think, oh, there's all this data and we need all these scientists and we need all these people. But actually, in the case of most data, you need someone to interpret it. You can't just have a load of graphs. I think that was what the government got so wrong in the pandemic. It was that we were seeing all these graphs every day, death numbers, and no real empathy or understanding of what we were all going through. And yeah, so what we need, copywriters and marketing people and lots of kind of other jobs that I'll talk about, is basically translating that data into something that matters to people. And we're still all people, despite all this technology. Cool. So this advert really annoyed me from the government. So this was an advert that was released a while ago. Does anyone recognise it? Put your thumbs up or whatever if you can recognise it. So yeah, so this ad really annoyed me, but I really liked this kind of rehash of it. So basically, all the kind of jobs that went into making that image and that advert campaign. So you've got a hairstylist, you've got a photographer, you've got a typographer, you've got a copywriter. You might not have heard of some of these jobs, and you're thinking, what are they? And graphic designer, obviously, you probably know what it is. Architect, the building wouldn't exist without these creative people. And not just creative people, analytical people, people who can work out what message is going to cut through. And this one did cut through, but in probably quite a bad way. So there was lots of parody about this campaign by the government. Fatima's next job could be in cyber. She just doesn't know it yet. So not saying that cyber and tech industry isn't somewhere that we should go. We probably all will be working in it at some point. So in terms of, like this sort of parody on the right is kind of also, I think people always think, oh, this is a bad campaign because it got parody. But actually, the people who worked on this campaign in an advertising agency probably were chuffed with that. They were thinking, this is great. Like, we've got all these people making memes, we've got all these people doing that. So sometimes success is kind of in the eye of the beholder, and I'm sure they will have been very happy with it. So this is a nice campaign that I really like. So this is an advert campaign by Nationwide. I'm not going to play the video now because it sometimes gets a bit complicated to share video, but I'd recommend looking it up and look at the Nationwide poetry series. So Nationwide are a building society. They're pretty cold, they're selling mortgages and bank accounts. But actually they managed to tell a really good story about their values. And I think values driven businesses are kind of where we're going now. We want our companies to care. And this one, I love this quote, which is like, every time I turn on TV, I'm disappointed in depictions of Generation Z, but Z obviously, so it rhymes. But yeah, have a look at that if you want some sort of inspiring advertising that you think actually. And has anyone seen the John Lewis advert? I mean, think about that. That's kind of guilt advertising, I would call that. So basically, you're using people in the care system, and I find that there's loads of ethical things around that that I think are interesting. So look it up, the John Lewis advert, if you haven't seen it already. And they're working with the care people, young people in care usually, in the care system. So these are the three things that I do basically, and I think it's really good to get these kind of ideas in your head, like of just making three really clear bullet points of what you do and who you are. So this is my work life. I've worked in the arts, so I work in lots of different arts organisations and also running my own things within the arts. Then there's marketing. So I've done quite boring marketing for London Borough of Hounslow. That was fun. And AKA, who are a theatre marketing agency. And I also advised Twitter right at the beginning of Twitter. So I'm really sad that it's going all to pot at the moment. It's one of my favorite social networks. So yeah, Cineworld, so like big film marketing as well, and cinema marketing. And then education, that's really my passion. I love working with you guys, and I'm really happy to talk further after this if there's anything of interest. So I've worked for FE College, drama school, and big universities like Queen Mary. So yeah, one thing that I always try and recommend to students and anyone that I do presentations to is this idea of being able to describe yourself in 3 words. And it is a challenge, like I think, but it's really good to think about. And if anyone's brave enough to do it right now and put it in the chat, I'd be very happy. But no pressure, and just take this away and have a think. Also, the one-line wonder is like one of my favorite things. Basically, why would people read your whole essay? If the first line isn't good, they ain't going to read on. And think about that. You're trying to get people interested in your work, or if you're doing a CV, if you're doing a cover letter, or if you're doing any email to an employer, just think, are they going to be bothered to read the rest of this? Because think of your attention span, and then think they probably got a lot more stuff going on. So think about that first line. Think about good words that kind of get you intrigued. Not sure if anyone's done it in the chat. I'm guessing Hugh would do a big beaming smile if you did. But yes,
nothing so far.
Nothing so far. Well, very disappointed in you all. So, but don't worry about it. Take it away. Think about it. if you can sum yourself up in 3 words, your LinkedIn is sorted, your CV is sorted, like you will cut through people who are just waffling and saying teamwork and all these things that, will ultimately be that everyone can do those things. So talk about yourself in these ways and it will reap loads of benefits in terms of jobs and other things later on. Cool. So I'm just going to talk about 3 projects that I'm really proud of. So one is Diana the Musical. I wrote a musical when I was a student, which seems a long time ago, in when was it? 2008 it came out, and it actually got banned by my university because they didn't want press to be on the campus. So we had to invite the audience. The musical was about dead celebrities still being alive in Mexico. It was all quite cheeky. And yeah, the press had a field day basically over this. And that's kind of when I got into marketing. And I wrote these quite obnoxious press releases that said, this is going to be really offensive, basically. And they took it. And the whole thing was basically a parody of the press to begin with. So the fact that they kind of licked it up and spat it back out again was great. So yeah, I trended across the world before social media, really, like before it really took off. So I was in BBC News, El Mundo, New York Times, lots of places. So it was all about Diana, which I knew and I was obsessed with at the time. So that's one big project. That was writing project, I guess, but kind of got me into PR as well, knowing how to work the press. So to-do list, that's probably my biggest one actually. I'm really proud of it. So it's a website about things to do in London. Like we started it in 2012, me and my partner, and we basically was sick of Time Out being rubbish. Time Out was getting rid of a lot of sections. So Time Out was this magazine they used to give out. You guys probably have never even seen it because it's probably already dead by the time you guys are growing up. But always wanted to work for Time Out. Time Out was like my ultimate goal. And then I sort of realized actually they were going towards this commercial model, which I didn't really like. It was just like another magazine full of adverts for mobile phone companies and advertorial. And also they started what do you call that thing? They got rid of the gay and lesbian section, the LGBT section, the comedy section, and lots of other kind of really important bits, I thought, like books and stuff like that for a London audience. So yeah, we started our own, and yeah, it was a business, definitely. I'd say it was like a good part of my income for quite a while, for about 5 years, and even before this, just before I started at Queen Mary about 6.5 years ago. But we kind of decided it would be more of a hobby, like a what do you call that, side hustle. So like trying to do something else as well as your main job. And we did have interviews with people like Catherine Ryan, who was just on the Jonathan Ross show, and like Joe Lycett, people who are like huge comedians now. We were talking to them when no one would touch them because they were too risque. And then they gradually get sanitized, which is fun. But the last one, Rosebery for College Prospectus. This was a copywriting task, basically, trying to convince academics that keywords are really important, and actually students age 16, particularly in a drama school, weren't really going to read a whole prospectus. They were just going to flick through and see what they liked. So yeah, it was convincing a lot of people who love writing that writing was important, but just a kind of different kind of writing. So we changed everything to like bullet points and things like that, and stuff that was suitable for people with dyslexia and autism. Like we have a lot of those in the acting world as well. So yeah, this is my website. This is an old geezer with a banana, which was a great. He's a great East Londoner. There's a few books about him. But yeah, so we're very like righteous on the website. So we're like, Topshop have launched this stupid water slide. Like, look at what's the real, the real London. This old geezer who was amazing. So we like interviewed him and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about social media and also just about writing a blog. So so these are just a few tips that I think are useful. Anyone can start a blog, by the way. You can just go on to like WordPress now and do it. And I would really recommend it. It's a good habit. It's like keeping a diary. Even of just the most inane things, like we have academics who do stuff on like Taylor Swift. We have like lots of people who just do their passion online. So yeah, these are a few tips. Post consistently. Great using great words. So use power words. There's this thing online called power words, and I'll give you a link to those. So that's things like offbeat. Like we use lots of things to try and make ourselves sound kind of exciting. Beautiful images really help. Don't just use dodgy ones from Google Images. And also shareability, which I'm going to talk a little bit about now. So I'll keep going. So content, who's heard of this? Content is basically everything at the moment. There's this whole thing of like content is king and all this stuff. It's quite cliche in advertising. So basically, this is what I've learned about content in the time that I've worked in it. And it actually comes from a book called Contagious. So if you get a chance, I'll put that in the resources thing I'll give you as well. So great content either makes you laugh, angry, or learn. So those cat videos, they make you crack up, or people falling over, or most of TikTok really makes you laugh or have that kind of joy reaction. The other kind is kind of more the news side of the angry side. So there's metro stories, there's news memes, all that kind of stuff. And then the actual one where I feel like I can actually work in this area for Queen Mary is learning. So we want to teach people about Queen Mary and what we do and learn something useful. So a lot of posts are around that as well, actually. Learning what's good, what's bad, how to do things. So yeah, this is basically the keys to why things grow viral, not necessarily that useful anymore. I'd say in the age of TikTok, it's pretty strange because every time someone watches a TikTok video, whether they like it or not, that is a view. And views are a strange metric because you're not actually doing anything. So this is a blog. This is kind of a structure of a blog, and feel free to like screenshot or take pictures on your phone or whatever. But I will send this Prezzo as well to people. But this is basically a really good blog post, and I always try and share it. So short keyword-based title. So you're stuffing the keyword right at the beginning. And then there's a picture that supports the title. So you're trying to get volunteers. You're showing all these happy volunteers. And then there's also short, snappy copy. So easy to read online. People are just going to skim online. So they need subtitles and they need these kind of bold titles, and you also need a call to action. So call to action in marketing is basically what you want the person to do. So all those book now, buy now, read now, learn more, all those buttons that you see in adverts, they are calls to action. So this is books that help me write better, and Contagious is the one that I was talking about, kind of the why people share. So why do people share things? Words That Sell has helped me in every job I've ever worked in. So it seems really cheesy and it is quite salesy, but it's trying not to use the same words over and over. So you think of stuff like exciting. Exciting is overused, or amazing is overused. Try and use something different that's going to cut through. Words That Sell helps with that. Elements of Style is just a really good thing to read anyway. It's just good writing. It's basically stuff like always keep things in the same tense, like and the same person. So like when I write a review, it's always in the present tense because it sounds most exciting. It's happening now. It's not just like some boring thing that happened in the past. It's alive. And it's not about my opinion. It's kind of it's in the kind of they form as well. Like, okay. So then there's this story one, Bobette Buster, she's great. And also, it's not about the burqa. That's good because it's Muslim writers who basically, one of them who came from here, and then I'm trying to think of other people. And Brave New Words as well, which is really good because it's loads of different writers, like all kind of writing about writing and why it's important, and their styles are all really different as well. So it's good to read other people. Reading will make you a better writer as well. So this is an example of Elements of Style by Strunk and White. So yeah, have a look at that. It's a really good, and you can usually just download it for free PDF because most unis have the copy, or just get it from the library. It's really good. This is from Babette Buster's book. So why storytelling is important, and kind of a bit about these big stories that are so popular, like Harry Potter. Yeah, so I recommend creating a blog, like make your own blog. And this is some of the student work that I've seen while I've been here. So Thora is great if you want to, and Asia Katun is from English with Creative Writing. Soda is working in the Insider Group, so she's got a full-time journalism job. She did Diaspora Speaks. She basically started that. And Tilly Bongard, she's like a full-time. She has a boat and she writes about women on boats basically. So she basically works around that now and lots of creative stuff as well. So have a look at these examples if you want to see where people go with it and how blogs can be a really important part. And I'd say with any social media as well, a blog doesn't need to be a WordPress. It could be a TikTok, it could be an Instagram account. If you're a more visual person or more video based person. So yeah, just wanted to talk about a few challenges in the workplace. I'm not sure how much time I've got, but I'm hoping I've only got a few slides. So working for others, I've always found that difficult. So I am an entrepreneur, born and bred. Like I ran a market stall when I was young with my mum. Like we used to sell cleaning products in like the middle of Deptford. I used to find it excruciating and really embarrassing. So but I was used to just chatting to people and being on my own. So I found it difficult in especially in large organizations where you've got loads of people all kind of trying to work together. So some solutions that I say around working with people that you don't agree with or find hard is like creating your own side hustle. So your main job doesn't your income job doesn't have, so the one that pays your rent basically if you want to get out of your house or your mum's house or whatever, the main job doesn't need to be the thing that you really love. Like it can be something that pays the rent and isn't too bad. You don't come home crying or whatever. That I would say that's a really good way of thinking is like having one to pay your rent and then having one that you like really love as well. Or I don't know why that went on. But yeah, so side hustles, great way to start because you're not paying a lot of money. And I've kind of had business plans, but I've always just gone with the basics, which are if you don't make money, it's not a business. So if you're putting loads of time in and you're not getting money back, that isn't a business, that's like a hobby. So a business is slightly different. And hobbies are great. Like to-do list is basically a hobby for me with a bit of pocket money thrown in. But yeah, you kind of need to be quite cold about it if you're going to run a business and be like, I need to make money. Um, Lack of confidence, that's another challenge. So not being able to present well or do interviews well, or be able to phone people. And I noticed a lot of students, especially on the English side, not really being able to turn their cameras on and being a bit shy. And that's fine, but you probably will get video interviews at some point as you go along your career journey, especially now. It's so much simpler for a company to do video. And if you're not comfortable with that, I would really try and work on that because and the career service can help you with that, like practice interviews and things. So don't be afraid. And also meeting new people, volunteering, part-time jobs really help. Believe it or not, I was quite shy. And then at 15, I got a job in a shop and they forced me to talk to people, lots of people. And I kind of lost it quite quickly. And doing some stuff that scares you and practice presenting, and hopefully you'll have opportunities within your course here to present and take those and don't think of them as like a waste of time. They're just as important as the writing. So the right job's not being available. Like I got out of uni at 2008, no one was hiring. Um, so my advice would be to look for smaller organizations and volunteering so you hear about things, working in a different industry. So thinking, oh, actually, I don't need to work in journalism. I could work in something that, I don't know, your dad's a plumber or something, and his company thinks, oh, they need to actually engage with people on TikTok to get customers. So work for that plumber and make them better at communicating. You know, don't just think it's all going to be in like the Metro or like these big publications. You can start small and they will really respect that kind of experience. Set up Google and Twitter alerts. Like you can be quite scientific about jobs now in terms of what they post on Twitter and what you can search for on Google. So Google Alerts basically just send you emails of search terms. Also, yeah, I really recommend to people getting help. So don't just do things on your own, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur. You need support. Like, and I have my partner, have a few friends who sort of do similar things to me. So it's really important to have those support network. And if you don't have that in your family or people that are close to you, have a look at these organizations, because I'd say Arts Emergency is great. You can be paired with like a film director, like loads of random amazing people, and they've actually done a talk here about what they do. So look up these people. And I'm on QMUL network. I said when I joined it about 3 years ago that I'd be a mentor for people. No one's ever asked me to be. So my challenge to you is ask, and don't be afraid to ask, because there are people like me who want to help. There's some upcoming things at Queen Mary. I'm not sure, again, Hugh, tell me when I've got to the end or time. But yeah, there's a few other things with upcoming at Queen Mary that might be of interest. So Creative Skills Academy is basically a thing that I started a few years ago that does workshops on things like video editing, freelancing, websites, tax. We did one on, which was really popular, weirdly. People love tax. And so, yeah, I'm really happy to do more of these. Going to try and push it towards semester 2. So keep an eye out for those. I will send emails as I always do, and please do sign up, because it's really boring when I have to sit there on my own. And yeah, so this is an example of shattering the glass. Sorry, another example of what we do is shattering the glass ceiling. So this was a project with The Guardian and Battersea Art Centre Omnibus Theatre in Clapham, sort of trying to increase representation of women of color in underrepresented and underrepresented people in the media. So that's continuing this year, and we're hoping to have like a tour around the Guardian office, which I think is really nice, and we'll have a chat, hopefully with some of the journalists who've worked with us before. So that would be a really good one to look out for. So look out for anything that says shattering the glass ceiling. The careers people, obviously, like you've so Fliss, she was briefly on the call at the beginning, if you weren't here, but she, oh sorry, it's still got Charlotte at the top, but f.bush is the email for your careers consultant. You know, you're paying us for uni, use these people, make these appointments, get value for money. That's my advice. We also have a Twitter called Llama Jobs, which are kind of set up as a joke. But it's I share quite a lot of jobs on there as well, and also on our Instagram, so at QMULSED, and on Twitter at QMULSED. I think that's it. And me in one dungarees, which is fun, from quite a while ago. But yeah, happy for people to book appointments, email me or follow, or LinkedIn or whatever. But yeah, the easiest way is to probably have a chat. So that's with the Calendly link.
Ooh. That was great, Rupert.